Well, welcome to Gafferpedia. And today we are with Ed Chapman from Inceptive Technical Direction. And we're going to talk about touring TDs, touring technical directors. And as Ed's business name will suggest, you are a technical direction company, not a true hard AV company.
Yeah, we've kind of started off just as myself and my dad going around, and we were, working out of a small Pelican case with a couple of laptops and a small switcher, and just traveling around Australia and doing some international work as well.
Yep.
Which is always fun to. It was always going to be like just taking things on a plane. So we could have flexibility of working with whoever we wanted, wherever we wanted, and never having to constrict ourselves to what was in a warehouse.
Which we'll get to, but you have kind of got yourself a warehouse and a van and all that stuff. But just paint a picture for our audience, I guess, a bit of a sketch on who Ed Chapman is and where you've kind of come from.
Yeah, so I started out in this industry working for my dad, but I first started doing that as drawing floor plans for him because I studied architecture.
I didn't know that.
So I have a Bachelor of Architecture, and that was what I was doing as kind of a summer job to come in and save some money to go to Europe.
Right.
Didn't end up going to Europe for 5 years after that. And kind of found a bit of a passion in being able to design stage sets and was interested in the technical side of things. Yeah. And that's kind of where I started into the industry, and moving further on, started enjoying the touring side of things and being able to go into different rooms and transform them, and just really enjoyed that look on people's faces when they could walk into a room. And
instant architecture.
Yeah, it is. And it's not too dissimilar really when you break it down to the design side of things, and really trying to integrate the technical side of things into a built form, and trying to play with how that looks to someone else, and then add another layer of content on top of that. And so I've used all of the skills that I had at university, and just tried to apply them in this trade as well.
Well, that's interesting, because a lot of people would come from a very technical background, and then as they progress through their career, learn about the design and how everything comes together. But you've sort of come at it from a bit of a different angle, like the overall picture first, and then zeroing in on the tech, I guess. Yeah,
coming backwards, I guess. Into the industry, and then learning the technical side of things. I didn't do any formal training in technical, and it was all kind of on the job, just in the warehouse, trying to figure out how to make something work based on what the design was before, knowing what the capability of the equipment was.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. So then, you when you first set up in Melbourne, I remember you were quite adamant that you wanted to keep it small, keep it what you could take in an aeroplane. But things being what they are.
We found that we were starting to get a little bit constricted by not having the intimate knowledge on the higher end vision systems, because I've always had more of an interest in the vision side than audio or lighting. So we wanted to start to understand how things like E2 worked and the higher end vision systems, and really push them further. And the only way really to be able to do that is by being able to get in there and actually exploring the architecture of the system and being able to push the boundaries on there.
And you need to own one, basically, to have that ability to do that on the down days.
And we found that we really started to push things further forwards. We started out buying a Barco S3, and then it's grown into media servers, and then an E2, and then it just starts snowballing from there, being able to add some more laptops. And
but once you cross that Rubicon, you can now go,
we got this, might as well get a bit more.
I mean, I've already got a storage facility, I might as well buy some more.
We managed to hold off for quite a while. It was a good 5 years before we had to get a storage facility, but then we started going, we're going to get some set pieces and use those on jobs, and then you start to need storage for that.
Definitely.
And then, COVID hit, and that was kind of a real catalyst for us in terms of what the way that I saw the business moving forwards.
Yep.
And shows got a little bit smaller, and we diversified our client platform portfolio a little bit.
Yep.
And from there is that's when it starts to snowball out into wanting some speakers, wanting an audio desk, and
There's implications, isn't there? I mean, you had to then go and get a rental system. I mean, you stop being essentially that touring TD who just sells yourself as a package and, choose a dollar figure for that event. And now you've actually become the sum of the parts.
Yeah, we're not really just selling just the service and the pre-production.
Yeah.
We're now looking at adding on what things, but when we're looking at that gear that we're buying, we're always trying to make sure that it's a flexible piece of equipment. So like a vision switcher you can use in many different ways. So we don't want to buy something that can only be used for one job and then we have to try and sell it again and again. So everything that we're putting into our inventory, we're trying to make sure that it is a flexible thing that can be used, so we're not putting a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
So still keeping the ethos that we had when we started out, but I guess we've just got more toys to play with to put out on a job.
Yeah. Speaking of toys, I mean, there's some people that love toys for the sake of toys, just love the gear and just want to own it. But then, as you say, sometimes it's about owning it so that you can become very intimate and understand it and play with it and pull it apart and really know it.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that we were using is media server that, there's not a lot of access to that unless you actually do own that.
We're not going to hire it to play. Yeah.
And like we just did a show last week that we really wanted to play around with the camera footage coming in and integrating that with the content that was already on the screen. And if we hadn't have had the server in-house, we wouldn't have been able to run all of the tests and play around with it and see what looks good. And then on site, we still had to build it a little bit once we actually saw the performance. But it was really about the 3 days that we spent in the office really pushing the boundary, trying to see how we could use it.
I imagine they're uncharged though,
to a certain degree.
Yeah.
We definitely allocate pre-production in our jobs. It's a hard thing to be able to accurately put how many hours you're going to spend on something up front.
And also with something like that, with a media server and how it comes together, I imagine before those 3 days, there's also that time of just experimenting, getting familiar so you can know exactly what you want to even try to do with it. I imagine there's a lot of that sort of time.
Yeah. That's it. Before you even sit down, you got to try and figure out why you want to do it.
Yeah.
And there always has to be a reason why you want to do something in a job for us. Like, we don't want to just make it look cool for the sake of looking cool. It always has to be, and I guess that's probably drilled into me during architecture, the form and function need to go hand in hand rather than...
It's motivated by something, not just because you can.
And there's a lot of time that you have to spend thinking about why you want to do something, I guess, and then you can go and figure out how.
It's very interesting because a lot of the time we talk about return on investment and all that sort of thing, and there is the way of saying that, like, if you hire something a number of times, then you should buy it because you can see the clear path to returning on that investment. But I guess with some of the more complicated things like the media servers and sort of all these design elements, you can't really be sure until you get it, can you? So does it feel like a bit of a kind of a leap of faith or like an educated guess in a way where you've decided, look, let's throw things into this basket and see where it takes us?
Yeah, definitely with the media server it was, because it was quite an investment for us at the time. We did buy it just before COVID happened.
Oh yeah, a lot of time to figure it out then.
So we definitely had time to sit down and play with it, but it was a real leap of faith, as you said, to spend the money on that. But it was based on the fact that we'd been working on quite a few jobs where we felt that we weren't able to push as far as we wanted to, and really getting stuck trying to use Band-Aid solutions to pull things together. So we wanted a solution that we could be confident in and be one of the only people that we knew around that had that solution, and using it as a point of difference for trying to win some work as well.
So a lot of your clients are financial kind of banky types, aren't they?
Yeah, we've got a fair few in that sector, but we've kind of been trying to diversify that. lately, which is an interesting thing to. You don't want to be stuck in one sector really, because then you're obviously open to
if that sector has a downturn
has a down
or something
year.
like that.
Yeah, so you want to try and spread out, and we have been able to diversify in the last few years, which is good, and that's also driven kind of buying some of the equipment, because a lot of the new work has been some of the smaller shows, which means that you can kind of fill a van up and get it out there and achieve everything that you want to achieve.
Just a bit more of the nuts and bolts, like the speakers and the just all those things that I guess when you started you were probably more geared towards like the control area stuff and the vision mixers and the brains of it all. But now is it also just trying to fill in the rest of the gaps of the entire show?
Yeah, because we were doing all these small shows and just realizing that, hey, we could probably do this ourselves. So went out and got those things, and it then grows those clients, and when they want to do a bigger show, we're already in there. We have the relationship, and we've got the capabilities of doing the larger things for them.
Yeah, and these are corporate directs. I mean, you're essentially a producer. Technical director dash coming up with the whole concept, the creative.
Yeah, we have a mix as well. We do work for some other creative agencies as well, where they come to us with a concept and go, how do we make this work? And they like that we're trying to think of outside the box a little bit to make their vision come to life. But we do have a lot of direct clients as well, which it's nice to be able to have that relationship directly with people and for a long term as well. And we've got some of our clients that I've been working with for 18 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they just keep coming back because of that relationship. And I guess in events, everything is about a trust, because you only get one shot to make it happen. So you're putting a lot of faith in your AV supplier or your technical partner to know what they're talking about and actually produce what they're telling you they can do.
Yeah. And I think when we had Andrew Gill on, he was talking about how you develop a bit of a shorthand as well, which makes it all happen a bit quicker because you kind of are used to how each other work. And
we have some clients that will just send us through their proposed run sheet and say, I need a quote. So you got to fill in the blanks around that.
But you know the drill, you know how they work, and you know what they expectation.
So it's easy for them, rather than having to brief in a new supplier each time. Having that shorthand really helps being able to be efficient and quick to get things back to people.
And these are the people who take you interstate and internationally,
so we do all over Australia and New Zealand, but then also have a client based out of Hong Kong who takes us on roadshows through Asia. And we've had a few inbound companies that have come in and then liked working with us here in Australia, and then taken us for their next iteration of the event, which is over in Europe or the US.
Oh, nice.
Just as a technical director, but they want us because they've built that trust up, I guess, that you're going to do what you say you can do.
Do you take gear with you when you do that?
In Asia, we do tour like anything that can go on a plane. Which still fits into where we started out. We'll take like a media server but then get all of the control gear, but the same spec as what we own back here.
Right.
So that we know what we're walking into. Can pre-build show files and deploy it out on site.
Do you find that easy to do when you're like when you after actually particular gear? Does that get to be a bit of a struggle in some places? Or
yes, and particularly if you're going into countries like Fiji or Thailand, you'll be told that a piece of equipment's going to turn up to site, but then they've swapped it with something else because in their eyes it does the same thing, but they don't know the specific use case sometimes that you wanted a piece of gear for, and or they might say that it's something, but it's actually a knockoff fixture, and it doesn't quite work the same way as you want.
That must be challenging then.
Or it doesn't fit into your show file, or something doesn't isn't compatible.
I mean, in Fiji it's always challenging. Well, the lead might break, and then all of a sudden you've gone from a 2mm pitch lead to a 5mm pitch lead.
Right.
And you're like, well,
It's not the same.
it's not going to look the same.
We'll just move the people further away.
So yeah, you're touring through those areas, like you're always just problem solving, I guess, which is a challenging.
It'd be hard as well because there wouldn't be as many sort of resources to draw on. Like, if something goes wrong in Melbourne, there's different places you can call on to help fix that. But that must be a big challenge out.
I think people are also quite aware of the situation, like from a client perspective, that you can plan for everything, but you're not necessarily going to get the exact same end product.
Yep.
As long as it's an end product that everyone's happy with and they're okay with it.
Yep.
But you got to keep in mind that the people that are attending the event have no idea what it was supposed to look like.
Yes,
So
that's right.
as long as the event runs well, then they see it as a success.
Yeah. Does your client, in that case, for Fiji, do they have a different outlook because it's now on a tropical island and they're a bit more relaxed? And
I think everyone's quite aware of what you're walking into there.
Yeah.
You've got not the same sort of work ethic, I think, because people aren't being paid the same amount of money over there. So you can't really expect that you're going to get everyone to get in and do a bump in 3 hours like you would back here.
But I find the clients themselves are a bit more relaxed. They're often...
Yeah.
Because they're in holiday mode a bit, because it's tropical. I mean, when I used to work on Hamilton Island for staging, we had the same... Like, the expectations used to drop a bit because it was now on a holiday resort.
Well, island time. The further north you go, it gets slower and everyone is, a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, so you can kind of get away with it. Not saying that people do...
I mean, you can even see that in Victoria. The more regional you go, the more relaxed it gets usually.
You do a job down in Lawn or on the coast or something, and all of a sudden the client doesn't care too much. It says tripod screen, they go, it's fine. Because you wouldn't accept that in the city, and they go, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, little projector on a plinth in the main room. And
When your client's wearing shorts, you kind of go, well, you obviously, your attitude's changed from big city vibe. So
people still obviously want it to be good, but they want
absolutely
what good looks like is different.
Yeah, and I know, so we've talked about this before, that obviously their safety standards can be a little bit different, and I've definitely witnessed quite a few
Instances in Malaysia, I've witnessed somebody climbing down the chain to a PA hang to replace a driver.
Wow.
Which you obviously wouldn't get here in Australia.
No.
And you really have to try and keep on top of people. But the expectations are different over there, and they don't necessarily listen to you when you don't actually, as a TD, have an opportunity to stop some of those things happening.
No. You wouldn't have the authority to stop it probably anyway, would you?
Not really, no.
They're probably like, this is how I do it. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Drapes being put up with bamboo and...
Oh, really?
It's, some very interesting techniques on how to run comms on an 8-channel mixer, and everyone's got their ins and outs. And that's not really a comm system. But,
no. Sure. Okay.
They've been resourceful and...
Yeah. But it's the same thing. They said they're bringing comms to site, but the comms don't work. So this is the solution that they have for you.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, it's good that they're resourceful, but equally it's hard to work your way through, especially when you've got time constraints and you've got pressure from the client to get the job done, and you've got these challenges
being thrown up
all the time.
I guess everyone that worked as a TD knows that you're always trying to fix problems before anyone figures out that they're a problem. Or if there is a problem, you need to have a solution very quickly to help out.
Yep, absolutely. But when you're in Australia, do a lot of stuff on the Gold Coast and
all the way up the East Coast. Last week we were Hamilton Island down to the Gold Coast, and then show in Melbourne on the Saturday. So we spread the team out across the...
How big is the team now?
So there's 3 of us full-time, one based up in Sydney, because we do a lot of work up in Sydney. And out of COVID, I really wanted to try and limit the amount of short trips I was doing up there. And so I brought Ben on, worked with him for quite a few years before he came on full-time. and he was sort of freelancing with us while we were locked down in Melbourne and actually able to go out on site in Sydney. So it was the way that we kind of got around being able to keep functioning during that period of time. And now he's doing a lot of the smaller shows there, and also jumping on the touring as well.
You've got gear and up there then?
We haven't put any fixed gear up there.
Right.
There's plans to get some of the control gear up there and leave it up there.
Yeah.
To stop the vans having to go up and down the East Coast so often.
I was going to say it's not always just about what gear you want to buy to use on gigs. There's the whole logistics behind it, right? That comes into play. So, yeah. Have you found that a challenge as opposed to just jumping on the plane with your suitcase? It's kind of like this other element to it as well.
It is, and that's a real. You need a really robust rental management system to be able to cover those things off and really plan and use the allocating feature of that to be able to make sure that you're going to have the right gear. And sometimes it says there's a shortage because it's not quite smart enough to know that you're actually going to take that gear on a plane to another location that quickly. So just keeping on top of that and really being mindful is something that we have to look at well in advance so that we can make sure that we're not short.
Yeah, I think that's one of the. I mean, there's a couple of differences between, I guess, a creative technical direction company and a pure AV, hard AV company. But I mean, rental systems are one of them. Some people who are creatives and producer types and own some gear don't even run the system. It's all in their head or in Excel or whatever they run, but nothing as detailed as a rental system. So, whereas a true AV company can only run off an AV software.
Yeah, we found that we needed to get that as soon as we started buying gear. We really needed to asset manage quite closely because gear does live up in Sydney from time to time.
Yes.
And then you might have a show come up last minute down in Melbourne and...
Oh, cool, we got two. And you don't think, that's in the wrong place.
I thought we brought that back. No,
Yeah, there's been a few things, but nothing too drastic so far, which is good.
Yeah, no. And so you're in a little warehouse though in
Richmond, So we got 200 square meters in there, which is kind of the sweet spot for us at the moment.
Yep.
Enough room that we can set everything up and test it, which we weren't able to do in a storage facility.
No.
So now actually being able to get everything out, prep the gear properly, which is a big thing for us touring, that you can't just duck back to the warehouse. And pick up that thing you forgot. So you need to make sure that everything is in that pack and it is tested and it is working.
Yeah.
So
you run through those experiments with those, imagine like media servers and that kind of thing. There's obviously a lot of testing and everything that needs to go in beforehand. Yeah,
it all gets pre-built before it goes in the van. So we got a little media room that we set everything up in and actually plan it all out and program it and can run through with the client and make sure that they're happy with it, because once it's in the van, it's done.
That's right. And as you say, you're a long way from home, so there's no going back and getting...
We have a really good network around Australia of people that we work with, so we're always partnering with someone on an event, so if you do get stuck, you're able to lean on those partners. But we try and be as prepared as possible so that...
well, I'm it's not your first time, so if you know what sort of things roadblocks can potentially happen.
But you get out to places like Uluru and there's no one. So you really got to be on top of your game to make sure that what you're planning is there and it's working. You've got backups. You know that you're not going to run out because there's no one close by.
No.
Can't duck down to JB.
Well, you can't go buy a spigot for a drape run.
Well, we did do a show out there one time where the client decided they wanted to double the amount of foldback monitors, which we managed to go and buy 255-inch monitors from the IGA in town.
Of course.
Sorry. And we were able to put them in. They got donated to the school after the event. But there was no one out there at that stage. It was before they'd refurbished the conference centre out there too.
So it sounds like you're talking about getting everything prepped and pre-doing show files and all that sort of thing. So is that a big part of your workflow, that when you get there at site and things come together, that part of it's all done? It's more just making sure it technically fits together, and then we can get on with sort of the tech checks and stuff like that?
Yeah, like we feel that the show should be the easiest part of the event. So we spend a lot of time doing vision schematics and making sure that the production schedules are done. Like we do a lot of paperwork to try and make sure that the show is the easy part, and try and problem solve and see anything that's going to be an issue before you get to site.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome, because obviously sometimes, you know, you're in situations when you're on gigs where there hasn't been time to do that sort of thing, and it can actually make it the gig really stressful, because you're trying to program things while setup's happening and there's not a lot of time. So it's really good to hear. Like, I love being involved in jobs that are like that, where you just get there, it's been thought of. If you've got something that can be pre-programmed, like a lot of stuff now, we have the ability to do a show file beforehand that never used to be possible. It's just awesome to see, like a really good way to do things.
That's your architecture coming out.
Yeah, well, my plan sets are probably sometimes too complicated for... But I enjoy drawing, so I'll do a sheet set that's maybe like 12 or 15 pages long for a large large job, and so people are flicking through a book of drawings trying to find the relevant drawing for what they're trying to do.
The elevation of that window in the family room.
Well, and we do draw everything in 3D because it is quite important to see the sight lines and being able to make sure that those chairs on stage aren't going to be blocking the screen.
It is actually all those details that really make those things go smoothly.
And it saves time.
Yeah, well, you've pre-thought it, and you've therefore taken all the bugs out and all the things that could come up. Yeah. Sometimes it is, you say, it is time that businesses don't have to do, but other times businesses, it's just not their wherewithal to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's something, I mean, if it started as pure hard AV, companies have kind of grown into doing more bigger produced events, but I don't come from that architecture background, but by that I mean they're not thinking and planning, they're just getting in there and doing.
Yeah.
And the crew must appreciate it as well. Like,
I hope so.
I would think so.
I think so. Like, we get good feedback from crew that.
Well, people, they love when they can go, you've thought about this is all going to go together, and it just goes together. There's no scratching of heads. No one's standing around going, how do we make this work? It's all there.
Yeah. Well, and like, it's the toolbox talk at the start of the event. This is what we're trying to do. Yeah. Here's all of the relevant information, and come to us if you've got a question. But if you've got the right information, then you're not necessarily wasting time going, oh, where's this? Or how's this supposed to work? You can. Yeah.
And also, it seems like there's 100 curveballs that can come at you, and I guess if you've done all of that other stuff ahead of time, when that curveball comes, you've kind of got the headspace to deal with the problem or change your tact. But if you were already trying to scramble everything together and something else hits you, that's when you can get into trouble, I guess.
Yeah. If you're prepared, then you're prepared for the unexpected.
No, I think that's awesome. And I mean, I wish others obviously did it the same. The crew probably the same. They picked the same thing. So that is really good. Do you? But you must come across, obviously, because you said, you know, interstate and internationally. I mean, you've dealt with all types of suppliers, but equally all sorts of crew, I guess. Are they?
Yeah. There's a wide ranging. Most of the people out there are quite good, even if they don't know what exactly the skill set that they need, but they're willing to learn.
Yep. Is it a commonality? Do you think there's a common thread internationally and interstate types of people?
Yeah. There's you could probably break people down to a few groups, but you've always got the local tech that's really helpful and wants to go out of the way to make things happen. But then you've also got the people that are like, what are you doing here trying to take our work? Our location.
Well, that first guy could be like, oh, a big show coming to town. I'm used to doing all this. Maybe there'd be places that don't do anything out of the ordinary, or the type of shows that you might do, and they'd be excited to be involved in it. And then, as you say, the other people that are kind of like, who's this guy? Like,
taking our work. And sometimes it is in some of the Asian countries. We don't have the best reception from some of the staff, but like, it's always the people that are actually managing the job that are really welcoming to us. And we're usually only taking one person over there as a technical director. So we're not actually taking anyone's role on the desk.
Yeah.
We did try and find some efficiencies for one of our clients in Asia, because you'd go and there would be 10 people on the desk
Yep.
for a fairly simple show.
Yeah. Lectern, mic up, down.
Yeah, you've got a few radio mics and a lectern, and you've got 3 audio guys on the job.
Yeah. Person per fader.
Yeah. So they asked us to come in because they were sure that they didn't need that many people. They didn't. But then we even simplified it down with Companion and Stream Deck to run all of the lighting cues along with the vision switch. So we got it down to 2 people.
Didn't go down well?
It wasn't.
With the client, I'm sure.
The client was quite happy. But yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It just meant it was a lot easier for us to be able to run the show seamlessly, rather than trying to translate into 5 different languages, which is always a challenge. When you're going from city to city, and we'd do like 5 countries in 5 days.
Right. Yeah.
And you kind of just need to get in and know that it's going to work, and you want to go to bed and try and get as much sleep as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
Because flying internationally, you obviously have a couple of extra hours. They're short flights, but yes, you're moving through the airport. You're
that's right.
dealing with carnet, so it's taken a lot longer to like move from A to B.
Yep. Yeah. But you enjoy the international travel side of it? Was it wearing a bit thin now?
It's funny. It was like when I didn't know anything different for a while, because it just gradually built up, and then I was doing it all the time. And then you kind of had a break for 3 years of doing traveling, and then now you go, oh, I actually wouldn't mind sitting on the couch tonight.
Yeah.
Having a bit of routine.
Yeah, familiar.
And it definitely can get lonely if you're the only one traveling around.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times walking through the streets of like Taipei at like 2 a.m. in the morning and going, what am I doing?
What am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and maybe the initial thought or the first time, it's pretty cool, but...
Yeah, I think from the outside, a lot of friends and family, well, not so much family because they kind of know the drill, but friends that think it's quite a glamorous lifestyle. You're going, I'm going to Fiji and I'm going to Thailand. And
Must be nice.
You're going on a holiday, but you're not. Some of the times you're in country for like less than 24 hours and you're only seeing the inside of a ballroom.
People say, what was it like? It's like, the conference centre was good. Taxi, I saw stuff out the window. It was great.
Yeah. Other than that,
if you weren't asleep in the taxi.
It's an airport and a hotel room.
Yeah.
But you got married a couple of years ago, but...
Yeah, I got married 2 and a bit years ago.
Yeah. And so I guess, you're probably in that stage of life where you probably don't want to travel around so much, I guess.
Well, my partner's been really good. We've been together, I've been touring the whole time that we've been together, so it's kind of like the only life that we've known. But she's definitely very patient with me and when I need to be away, and understanding of what that actually means for us and the life that we're building together. But because
that it can take its toll. I mean, working in AV is bad enough, the hours we keep, let alone constantly in and out of the country.
Yeah. So you just got to try and make the most of the time that you are actually at home, and try and make that quality time, I think, is really important. Rather than, sort of just getting back and sleeping.
Yes. Yes.
As much as you might want to
catch up. Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you think it all goes next? What's the plan for Inceptive?
Oh, it's hard to say. We're looking again to try and double down on sort of that media server side of things. We really want to become more of a leader in there, and there's so much interesting stuff coming out, and generative content and augmented reality, and how that can come into working straight into events, and how we can apply that to make content actually work for an event. You don't necessarily have to fully pre-plan everything. There's a lot of people that are starting to look into it now, and we want to be part of that as well, and try and push it a little bit further.
Is it a lot of the same kind of players that are now adding that to what they've got, or is there sort of some new faces coming in?
I think there's a lot of new faces, people that have been working for other people that are now wanting to go out and start their own smaller operation, but be very focused on these sort of things that we're seeing.
And what about like the companies that make the software or the hardware? Like, is it a lot more on offer now? Like,
it seems so. Yeah, there's obviously the usual players that are out there, but we've just been talking with a few. And Charlie, who works for us, has been out doing the research, finding everything that he can, and we've met with a few people that I'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
Which is, it's cool to see that there's new stuff coming onto the market, but it's also, you're a little bit wary of new things that are coming out because they don't have the track record and haven't been road tested, to say. So you want to make sure that they're actually fit for purpose for the touring lifestyle that we do, because it's not particularly nice on sensitive equipment.
No.
But the generative stuff sounds really interesting, because a lot of the media server stuff would, the amount of animation and 3D work that goes in beforehand is quite intensive, and obviously often very exacting about how it needs to be implemented on the day. But if there's a lot of this generative stuff coming in, especially if it's like something like, sort of like a moving background or something like that.
Yeah. You have a speaker walk onto stage and a smoke trail come behind them, and you have camera tracking that is watching that. And like, it's obviously been used in film sets a lot already. But
replacing that green screen kind of thing with the actual...
Yeah. But if you can try and bring that into an event space, and that's what we want to do, is try and find a way of making that an easy to deploy thing and cost effective for a client as well.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I guess with everything, things become a bit more accessible as technology progresses. So if you can find ways to bring that into more gigs that maybe couldn't have got it before, that'd be really exciting to see, I reckon.
Well, you can spend a lot of money on animation, and people do spend a lot of money on animation. But if you can have something that you go, all right, well, we're just going to change this parameter.
Yeah, because obviously different event spaces got different size stages and ceiling heights, and so you got your LED wall or whatever it is you're using is going to change on that roadshow. So
and you're right, animation is historically it's fit for one particular purpose. If it needs something changes, you got to render for 3 days to get the new new stuff out. So,
well, even like if you want to do an animation with the speaker titles of every speaker at a 3-day conference, and you have to render out every individual piece of that. Yeah, it's going to take a long time. But if you can get it down to referencing a CSV of everyone's names and titles, you can just update that CSV if a speaker pulls out or a title changes. You don't have to re-render, and it's just sort of happening in real time.
Sounds ingenious.
Yeah, well, hopefully. We're still in the infancy of trying to learn about all of that, but it's kind of one thing that sort of piqued our interest at the moment, that we're really interested in trying to bring to our skill set.
Yeah, nice. Because, I mean, you guys, I don't imagine we'll get into LED, but, there's, big LED has kind of come everywhere, become normal now. And it's, as it should. I mean, it's always been a much better option as a backdrop behind the stage than obviously projecting and shadows and lights, focusing, trying to make it look good, but it looks good in the dark until you put all the stage lights on and projectors and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, and you can obviously take that sort of flexible software with you and just bang it up on any LED screen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly think that LED's better than projection sometimes.
No.
But I
love the fact that you can walk in front of it, you can light it.
We just did a show last week where we had a 7-meter high screen as the backdrop to the stage that was all projection. But we had the room to play with.
Yes.
So you could walk in, but I love how easy it is on the eyes. You can sit there and the cameras look at it all day. And the cameras.
It has its drawbacks, but it's but I can see why it's become so prevalent, why it's become normalized.
Yeah, well, it's really easy, and a lot of clients really want that look now. They've looked at Apple launches, and they go, "That's the amount of times we get that as a brief." We want that tech launch, and it is easy, and a lot of people have the LED.
Yeah,
and it's getting better and better.
Yes,
exactly. And the pictures are getting smaller and smaller.
And it became more affordable, and good quality stuff is becoming more affordable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find like your shows are easily transferable? Like if you've got a show that you do here and then it's going to be interstate or international and they're going to have a different LED wall there, but you've got the same show, is it usually sort of a simple thing to say, cool, we'll just put that onto this wall, or different brands, LEDs or different processes kind of cause any...
It's not too bad, but that comes down to the planning that we do at the start. Like you go out, you have to get the floor plan and the specifications of every room, and then use that to fit the design that's going to be able to be used in all of these different locations. It's not often we'll get a job that goes ahead in June without knowing that it's going to need to happen somewhere else. So we do that first design knowing that we're going to need to redeploy it somewhere else and be able to make sure that it does fit in both locations. But you can struggle if you want like a specific lighting fixture maybe as part of the design, is something that we do struggle with. Getting things that are readily available here in Australia versus what's in Singapore or Hong Kong. Yeah, very different.
Yeah. So you'd probably go with, I guess, more the end result than the specifics that moving light can achieve. You know, like you're just going for the overall look that you can probably use brand X, Y, and Z as opposed to only works with X.
You don't need to be so granular on the exact fixture type.
You're just going to paint yourself into a corner, aren't you? Like, so you just don't do that.
You have to be quite flexible, but you might have a core piece of the design that you want to make sure that is the same everywhere, and then you can add little bits and pieces to that around that are interchangeable. So it gives yourself the flexibility.
In those early days when you've been given a brief and it's taking you from Singapore to Malaysia to Thailand or whatever, and you've then got to contact all those, are they forthcoming at that point to give you all the details?
I found that we were pretty lucky with the people that we reached out to first. We had one supplier that we were probably getting charged a lot more than we should have been when we first went out there, because they were kind of like the easy option for us when we were first going over, and we needed a reason to be there, but they also knew that.
So they rubbed their hands together a little bit.
Yeah, they knew that we didn't know what we didn't know, and kind of we got charged a lot more, but as we got over there, we met with more people, we went and looked at more warehouses, and now we've got we're going direct to gear suppliers, rather than an intermediary that is putting a margin on top of the gear supplier before charging us. And but the people that we are working with over there now are really forthcoming and do open up their warehouse to us to let us have a look inside if we want to go and check out what gear they've got. They're sending us updates on what new gear they're bringing.
Cool.
And it's always kept in really good order as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That is good. Well, I reckon that is a really good spot to say thank you very much for coming. It's been a great chat. And I know you're always going to do well, but it's because you've been doing this for such a long time, and probably, even though I do rib you about the day you told me that I'm going to keep this all small in an aeroplane, I totally understand why, and I actually concur. And I mean, obviously I've done it myself and bought a bunch of gear. So all the best, and we know you'll have continued success. And thanks for being on Gafferpedia.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Well, we'll talk to you all again next time.
Gafferpedia is brought to you by Box, Hippo Event Technology, AV Hire, and Cardigan Creative. Catch you on the next episode.